There are a lot of Ethan Solace books out there now, and readers often describe them as thoughtful, cinematic, emotional, and deeply personal. But there still isn't a huge amount online about the person behind them. So, for anyone discovering you for the first time, who is Ethan Solace?
Thank you. Honestly, it feels strange, but lovely to be asked that. Ethan Solace is the name on the books, but behind that name is a real person who has lived a fairly unusual life. I am an interdisciplinary psychologist, a father, a writer, and someone who has always tried to make sense of the world by asking questions. There is not a huge amount about me online, partly by choice. I value my privacy, but it is also because some of what I write touches areas connected to my professional life, and I am careful about boundaries, conflicts of interest, and the responsibilities that come with the work I do. So I will always keep some parts of myself private, but I can say this: I grew up in Lincolnshire, had a turbulent childhood, joined the army as a young adult, failed plenty of times, had to pick myself up repeatedly, and eventually found my way into psychology, education, trauma, SEND, and writing. My life has often felt stranger than fiction. I sometimes joke that it is where sitcoms come for storylines, but underneath all of that is something serious. I have spent my life trying to understand people, pain, resilience, imagination, and the strange, beautiful ways human beings survive. That is really where Ethan Solace comes from, not from one clean, perfect story, but from a life full of questions. And I think the books are my way of offering those questions back, gently, honestly, and hopefully in a way that helps other people feel a little less alone.
You mentioned privacy and professional boundaries. Why has it mattered to you to keep some separation between the author and the private person?
I think privacy matters, especially when your work touches sensitive areas. A lot of my professional background has involved children, families, trauma, SEND, safeguarding, education, and systems where people are often at their most vulnerable. So I've always been careful about what I share publicly, because I never want my writing life to blur boundaries or create complications in the work I do. But there is also a personal side to it. I like being private. I do not think every part of a person has to be turned into content. Some things are allowed to remain quiet. Some parts of your life are allowed to belong only to you and the people closest to you. At the same time, I know readers connect with the person behind the books. So this is me trying to find the right balance, being open enough to be human, but careful enough to stay respectful of my professional responsibilities and my private life.
Your professional background is clearly a big part of your writing. How did your journey into psychology and child development begin?
It was not a straight road at all. My early adult life involved the army, setbacks, mistakes, and a lot of moments where I had to start again. Then, in 2012, I began my academic journey with a foundation degree in psychology. From there, I went on to study applied psychology, counselling psychology, criminology, adverse childhood experiences, counselling, therapeutic interventions in education and social care, and eventually completed a master's degree in interdisciplinary psychology. Alongside that, I worked in specialist roles connected to the police, local authorities, education, SEND, and child development. So when I write, I am not writing from a detached place. I am writing from years of study, but also from years of sitting with real human complexity. Children who are struggling, families who are exhausted, systems trying to help, adults trying to understand behaviour that often has pain underneath it. That background shapes everything I write. Even when a book looks simple, there is usually a lot underneath it. Psychology, trauma-informed thinking, child development, accessibility, and the belief that children deserve honest ideas presented with care.
You have spoken before about being dyslexic and about having a very visual mind. How has that shaped you as a writer?
It has shaped everything. When I was a child, I had meningitis B, and afterwards I developed acquired dyslexia. That changed the way I processed language and learning. Growing up dyslexic in the 80s and 90s was not easy. There were not the same tools, support systems, or technologies available that exist now. But while written language was difficult, my internal visual world was incredibly vivid. I have a hypervisual, lateral thinking mind. I often experience thoughts almost cinematically, ideas, memories, emotions, and stories appear in my mind's eye in extraordinary detail that is both a gift and a burden. Trauma can replay vividly, feelings can arrive in high definition, but stories do too. Worlds do. Images do. Whole books can exist inside me long before I managed to get them onto the page. For years, I had stories everywhere. In notebooks, fragments, ideas, scenes, and entire books living in my head. Technology changed that. Speech to text, text to speech. Editing tools and grammar support opened a door that had been closed for a long time. So dyslexia did not stop me being a writer. It shaped the kind of writer I became. A visual one, a sensory one, a cinematic one. Someone who writes as though the page is trying to catch up with the film already playing inside my mind.
Where did series like The Big Questions and Love, Magic, and Belonging come from?
The big questions came from several places at once. Professionally, I have worked with some of the most traumatized and complex children in the country. Personally, I am a father, and I have lived through that wonderful stage where children ask how, why, what, and then why again. But one moment really stayed with me. A child once said something like, "There is nothing left that is interesting, exciting, or to be explored in the world." And they meant it. That broke my heart a little. Because the real world is astonishing. It is full of mystery, courage, science, history, beauty, danger, kindness, invention, and wonder. Nonfiction does not have to be dry. Real things can be every bit as magical as fiction when they are shown properly. So, the big questions became my way of saying to children, look again, the world is not empty of wonder, it is overflowing with it. Love, magic, and belonging comes from a slightly different place. That series is about giving children wonder, warmth, story, safety, and emotional language, sometimes with a little therapeutic thinking hidden gently inside the magic. Because children need facts, yes, but they also need enchantment. They need books that help them understand the world and books that help them feel at home inside it. That is what I'm trying to build. A body of work that gives children curiosity, courage, comfort, and a way back to wonder.